Anastasia here from the Sacred Spheres. I'm here to talk about, again, what's totally possible. This is a beautiful exercise that comes from Kyle Cease and his Evolving Out Loud community, the Absolutely Everything Pass, and working with a friend today, doing it with her, a new friend, now an old friend maybe, learning what's totally possible through something that sometimes doesn't feel like it's possibly a gift, but it is. So, did you know that it's totally possible that crying, and for those of us who feel very deeply, for those of us who have this radical sense of empathy and this ability to hold space for others and hold space for ourselves and just let ourselves cry with abandon, who often go deep and dark into the recesses. Those of us who can find ourselves even paralyzed by depression. And then also these intermittent manic phases of anxiety, whether it is bipolar or it's simply just the angst of being alive and the expectations that we put on ourselves. It's totally possible that that is what can really crush us, those expectations. And it's totally possible that we can just listen to our heart and allow that truly to guide us in a way that isn't spiritual bypassing, but truly listening to what was bringing the expectations in the first place, to what was allowing us to feel like we needed to self-punish, self-mortify, self-annihilate, that was bringing the anxiety, that was bringing the weight that was smothering us into the earth like we can't even breathe, this heavy, heavy, thick veil that we can't even see through, and we just kind of give up into. That is such a profound gift to sit with and to listen to and to hear what it has to tell us, to hear what its learnings are, and to just be a space for it to listen, to love it. Because as Kyle would say, and a lot of other transformational speakers, it's often and almost 100% of the time simply a pattern, a complex, a moment, even from childhood, when something happened that was way too big for our little bodies to handle. And so we created coping mechanisms, protection mechanisms to help us through life when those things that happened earlier in life were just too much for us. And yet they evolve and shapeshift and become new types of patterns of resentment and denial, or relationships where somebody keeps punishing us and making us really feel unworthy, like we have to prove and earn their love, prove ourselves, that is, and get love that's external to us, when really we're just afraid to love ourselves because that was a radical act in childhood and considered selfish, and that it's actually honorable to inflict pain on ourselves, and we can't really do anything aligned with our heart, that would actually be the death of us. We'd be fundamentally unsafe. It's totally possible that that just was something told to our parents and was told to their parents, and they just kept looking for the proof of that in their lives and finding ways to prove that, no, we have to stay in these barely surviving moments of scarcity and terror for where our money's going to come from, and fear for kind of exposing who we really are and speaking our truth in the world, because say there are people who did speak their truth and died for that, or were abandoned, like a child. If a child wants to speak her truth in a family or community who has radically different beliefs than her, and she wants to say this, but if she does, she'll lose her actual ability to survive. Roof over her head, food, and so on. And so she learns to muzzle herself, but yet feel deeply. And interestingly, for those of us, like I said, who can feel really, really profound depths, what if, that also is a bit of a pattern of a coping mechanism? Because we learn that if we cry, we get attention. If we really are in pain, we get love. We even get money. If we're suffering, that's quantifiable to someone as a reason to help us, especially if you're someone who seems so talented and so magnanimous also. Like, you give so much of yourself already and you feel so much. You're so sensitive. And it's almost like, oh yeah, you are too sensitive for the world. Oh yeah. And so, and this sounds very familiar to me and possibly to many of you. It's totally possible that being too sensitive is perfect. And it's also totally possible that it is from a pattern of needing to protect myself or yourself. And that I just need to hold the space to see that and to kind of take the layer off at the top and then another layer and just keep going deeper and deeper and deeper until I see what's kind of at the core that keeps going down, down, down from, oh shoot, somebody shamed me for just crying and expressing a beautiful emotion and it felt triggering, and then you kind of shave that off. Well, why? And then what? And then, you go deeper, deeper, deeper into this sort of discussion we're having now. But what if it's totally possible? It's totally possible that crying, for those of us who are empaths and very sensitive, and to whom people have said, you're too sensitive for this world. Like, I don't know what you can do. You're emotionally intelligent. What if that is actually our emotional intelligence? What if that is actually our superpower? What if, just like the planet is 70% water, just like our bodies are 70% water, that water, the water that comes through our eyes, those tears are absolutely essential and are 70% of what we need to be doing with our days. It's totally possible that water, the source of life without which we would not survive, without which this planet would not survive, that water is a powerful healing act when it comes through our eyes. And for those of us who offer it often and feel so much, as we allow ourselves to feel and not shame the feeling and sit with the feeling while also loving the fact that we have shamed it in the past and we have let others shame us. Because I firmly believe that whatever I need to work on and I am doing to myself, I'm going to manifest and attract to me, and those people are going to do it to me. And obviously I'm saying this because this has happened all throughout my life and is actually something that has stymied me and made me feel like, yeah, I really can't survive in this world financially, whether it's a job. And what I've been learning is actually my ability to emote and to cry and to feel everything and to feel what other people are feeling is actually a form of a psychic gift. It's called intuition. and I'm hearing it and I'm listening to it, and it allows me to know how to respond better to the people around me and hold a space where they feel safe in my presence. I think that's pretty fucking awesome, honestly. It is pretty fucking awesome. So for those of you who feel this way, who feel this underwater, like you live at the bottom of the ocean, you feel everything, you can feel the weight of things on you, that this is actually very powerful. It is, in point of fact, so powerful and so healing. It is the waters that flow through us that are like when you go to the ocean, you're sitting in the ocean, you're kind of going through the waves and you are blissful. Let's say you're even a young little kid and you are having the time of your life. You got the little boogie board. There are moments where you just float and you're looking out at this expanse. You're seeing the sky, you're hearing other kids laughing and yelling and splashing the water around at their brothers and sisters or their friends or whatever they're doing. Or even you could imagine like you're floating in the ocean, you could just see the vast expanse of stars up in the night sky. How beautiful would that be? But you're there in the water, but maybe there's a storm brewing, or maybe there's a really intense riptide and you're getting pulled under at times. But then you get back up, and how exhilarating is that? Like, I just survived that. And maybe you're like, okay, that was too much to survive. I'm getting out of the water now. And maybe, in fact, you're pulled down by the riptide and you're knocked unconscious, and you wake up, and let's say now you're much older. In fact, I'm assuming you're adults watching. So you're your age now. I don't know. You're 20, 30 something, 40 something, whatever you are. 60 something, 90 something. You're 178. Congratulations. You are the longest living person alive. And you go down that riptide, you're knocked out, but you suddenly come to, and there's this, beautiful lifeguard, male, female, non-binary, whatever they are, and you're getting resuscitated by them. Or let's say you even drop your body and you transition. Water is powerful. You never know what you're gonna get. Are you gonna get the lifeguard, or are you gonna get the life bearer, Chiron on the river Styx taking you to the other side? Suddenly some pearly gates start popping up. You're like, oh no, what just happened? But water is what heals all, and it's stormy, and it's turbulent, and it's life-giving, and it's powerful. And until it comes out of the eyes, we're often harboring so much pain that is impeding us from really opening up, because we cannot receive if we're in constriction. We receive when we're open. But also, how important is it to love the moments of constriction? We don't get out of the problem by staying in the problem, and certainly not by adding more shame on it. You want to let go of shame. You don't shame the shame and then keep shaming and then get mad that all those times I shame. No, you've always done what you've done from the highest consciousness you had at that time. You thought that was best. Even if you did something heinous, it was still what you thought was best. And it's important to recognize what has happened, and also to know that you did your best, and to love that you did your best, even if there are major repercussions for what you did. But you're not going to move forward through it and open if you're shaming the shit out of yourself and guilting yourself. Shame, in fact, is probably the lowest vibration on the planet. In Power versus Force, David Hawkins talks about this, and I'm looking at this book. It's one of the books literally holding up my computer right now. And it's really helpful to remember that just like when you are caught in a riptide, you don't want to fight it. If you resist it, it persists, and it will certainly take you down. And it's okay if it takes you down. That whatever has happened is what needed to happen. Okay? I already talked about this in another video. It's exactly what needed to happen. What a relief in that. It was perfect. So even if you get pulled down, it's perfect. But the good news to know is that water that comes through the eyeballs, the sensitivity you may or may not have. If you don't have sensitivity and you're watching this, you probably already turned this video off a long time ago. But if you're still watching, if you could take away anything, is that you don't release patterns of shame by keeping shaming yourself. You love the shame. You accept that you have done that, and that it actually served you, and it no longer serves you, because you have to get to a point where it's like, and sometimes for us in life, those of us who really love pain and find it somehow, especially with a Judeo-Christian mentality of the more pain, the more I suffer, the more glory I receive, maybe not in this life, but the afterlife, but often even in this life. I'm applauded for my sacrifice to the point where it's almost annihilating me. For those of us who won't express vulnerability, again, if you take something out of it, is not to shame that and to accept that. And you might find suddenly that tears start to come, saying, in fact, if you're really frustrated, just out loud, I need help. and give up. Because sometimes, what I was saying earlier is some of us learn the really hard way. And it really has to be dire before we make a decision to change. Because the first choice really to stop shaming the shame and to start feeling the feelings and being okay with the feelings or not having the feelings is knowing that I am worthy of a good life. How about that? I'm enough. I'm complete. I'm perfect as I am and not as I have been and as I will be. Not as a way to bypass the shit you've been up to. Whether afflicted, on others or yourself. But really hearing what is underneath and then underneath and then underneath that and underneath that, knowing that is just like we have complexes or patterns, right? That we have to move through in life. Knowing that it's complex. In other words, it's challenging. It's hard and there are many layers and it's always ongoing, but it doesn't mean that, oh shit, if I haven't gotten through all my issues, so to speak, then I can't have a good life. No, you're actually already there. You can enjoy the ride. You're already there. You may accept that you don't have to do anything as much as just listen to who you are, to where you've been. Be okay with that. It's not even a matter of accepting it. It just is. It happened. And that's what needed to happen for you to keep growing. Because in this lifetime, there's no stagnancy. It's always incessantly growing. And one of the most beautiful ways by which we do that, and analogies for how that happens, is through the fluidity of water. We are not here to be icebergs, right? If we are, we're going to sink ships. We're here to start melting the icebergs of our heart and listening and allowing things to flow. It doesn't mean that there still won't be chunks of our icy self or other ice in the water, right? But things are generally warming up. And guess what? That can actually be a great thing. Understand climate change. I get it. But in this case, it is beautiful to allow ourselves to be fluid, to allow ourselves to cry or not to cry, to release shame and judgment, to love the shame and judgment even when we do it, and to just open our hearts. Because if you're struggling right now with whatever it is, if you keep constricting or crying a way to punish yourself, which is also another constriction, or you're crying and then judging the crying, you're depressed and then judging the depression, it's hard to let the light in. But the good news is that you already are light. You already are there. You're never disconnected from the infinite reality of all that is, and that you are just an individuated aspect of that eternal consciousness in human form. Play with that for a moment. Wrap your mind around that. And that you're not just worthy of a good life. You are life. You are creating the life you're living. Whatever you're thinking, you're manifesting, creating, whatever you're doing is because you are trying to prove to yourself, one, like either I am in a universe in which I need to be paranoid and be scared, or in one that is conspiring for my best self and my highest heart and well-being. And therefore you need pronoia, the antidote to paranoia. Check out Robert Bresney's work if you haven't already. He's beautiful on this subject, and also wrote a book called Pronoia. And that is enough rambling for today. I had wanted this to be so succinct and beautiful, but I'm so vulnerable and so soft right now, and this is just what needed to come forward. So if you're still here, I love you. Thank you. Like, subscribe, comment what you got out of this, what you're shaming, what you do when you shame yourself, how that feels, what you'd like to feel differently. Because I feel like the more we elevate our vibration, the more not just we change, but everything around us changes, because we see the world differently, and then the world responds to us differently. I love you guys. Thank you for being here. I'm here if you need any help. Comment, message, there's info and all the links below. Have a beautiful day.